Hello, tonight. You awaken beneath the ancient gaze of the great Sphinx. The sand beneath you is warm, like it remembers the weight of empires, and the wind smells faintly of old incense and stone that's been sun-baked for millennia. Above, the stars blink lazily through a dusty twilight sky, but your eyes are drawn to the creature before you, half lion, half man, all mystery. The Sphinx isn't just a statue, not anymore. Not for you. Something shifts beneath the stone paws. Not in a terrifying way, well, maybe a little terrifying, but more like the earth stretching its back after a long nap. You stand, brushing grit from your clothes, and realize this is not a dream, or if it is, it's the kind that gets cited in ancient scrolls and footnotes in unread museum archives. 1. Light-hearted warning. Before we begin, you probably won't survive this journey with all your assumptions intact. So, before you relax, consider liking and subscribing, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And hey, leave a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Let's see which time zones our gods reach. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background noise, and let's slowly begin tonight's voyage. You take your first step across the stone platform, the sound swallowed by the desert's hush. The Sphinx watches silently, its chipped face timeless in knowing. In the shadow of its colossal paw, you notice a staircase spiraling downward into the earth. There's no railing, of course. Ancient Egyptians weren't big on safety codes. The temperature drops as you descend. The torch in your hand wasn't there a moment ago. But hey, dream logic. The flame flickers without smoke, casting orange light on sandstone walls carved with rows of symbols, falcon's eyes, serpents, and something that looks suspiciously like a modern toaster, which you decide to ignore. A widely accepted historical fact. The Sphinx likely predates the pyramids, though no one can agree by how much. Some archaeologists whisper about water erosion on its base, suggesting it stood watch before the Sahara was even a desert. Unusual fact. There are forgotten myths claiming the Sphinx wasn't just a monument, but a guardian between realms, sky, and the unknown below. You reach the chamber at the base of the stairs. The ceiling is high, domed, and painted in lapis blue, flecked with golden stars. A gentle breeze moves through the space, even though you're clearly underground. You take a breath and smell something sweet. Lotus maybe, or memory. A low voice echoes behind you. Not threatening, just ancient traveler. You turn, heart thudding, and there it is. A robed figure, draped in white linen, gold collar glinting in the torchlight. No face, just a smooth mask shaped like a jackal's head. Your path begins here, the figure says, stepping aside to reveal another doorway, framed by two carved lions whose eyes glint unnaturally. You glance back at the Sphinx, somehow visible through the walls. Its gaze feels different now. Less of a riddle, more of a dare. Scholars still debate whether there are undiscovered chambers beneath the Sphinx. Ground-penetrating radar scans have hinted at voids and hollows, but permits mysteriously stall every time someone gets too close. You step forward. The doorway hums as you pass through it. No, really, it hums, like distant harp strings being plucked in slow motion. You emerge into a hallway lit by dancing firelight and frescoes that move when you're not looking directly at them. One shows a man with a falcon head leading a boat through a river of stars. Another shows a woman assembling the pieces of a body while tears fall from her eyes in gold streams. The next wall, it shows you, or at least, someone who looks very much like you, walking into a tunnel of symbols, carrying a torch that burns. Without smoke, you swallow and keep moving. Soon, you reach a courtyard open to the night sky. The Sphinx is far behind you now, but the air still carries its solemn hush. Palm trees rustle gently in the breeze. A pool of water reflects the stars perfectly, no ripple, no flaw. You kneel beside it, drawn in. Your reflection stares back, then smiles without you. Nope, definitely not creepy. Behind you, the masked figure speaks again. The gods buried their secrets where the sun does not reach, and they entrusted their stories not to priests, but to wanderers. You glance down at the reflection again. This time, it doesn't look like you at all. Instead, it's a man with the head of a falcon, eyes glowing amber, lips unmoving as a voice emerges. The sands forget nothing, and then, in a blink, the water is calm. Just water. No bird-headed reflection. Just your face again, looking a little more tired and a lot more intrigued. You sit back, staring at the star-filled sky. You're no longer sure whether you're dreaming, hallucinating, or accidentally drank some expired kombucha, but you do know this. Something old and powerful has noticed you, and it's waiting. You wake except you hadn't realized you'd fallen asleep. The stars above are still frozen in the same delicate pattern, and the pool beside you remains undisturbed, as if time paused just for you. But the jackal-headed figure is gone. Instead, standing at the edge of the courtyard is a new shape, taller, leaner, wrapped in linen like moonlight itself. You approach slowly, your footsteps silent on the sandstone floor. The figure turns, and you're met with the gaze of Horus, the falcon-headed god of the sky. His eye, rimmed in gold and cobalt, seems to pierce right through us. Though, it's not just seeing your form, but scanning your past, your doubts, your Netflix history. You resist the urge to apologize for that one show you binged during quarantine. He speaks without moving his beak. There are wounds beneath the sands, and feathers in the dust. Okay? Cryptic, but poetic. He gestures toward a nearby temple entrance, its columns carved with winged suns and ancient eyes. As you step inside, warm light greets you not from fire, but from something within the stone itself. A glow like trapped dawn. Widely accepted historical fact. Horus was revered as a symbol of kingship and the protector of the pharaohs, often represented with the eye that had been wounded and later restored. A myth echoed in temple reliefs across Egypt. Unusual fact. Some lesser-known myths suggest that Horus, in certain rituals, temporarily lost control over his divine form, becoming something more animalistic than divine, especially during solar eclipses. The temple's walls are lined with imagery of battles. Horus against Set, skies torn in half, rivers running backwards. But what catches your eye isn't the fighting, it's the aftermath. In the final panel, Horus kneels beside a fallen figure, weeping golden tears. And in the sand, something begins to grow. You pause, noticing the tears shimmer when you move, as if the wall painting itself is still wet. Then you realize something unsettling. The light in the room isn't just illuminating. The carvings, it's responding to your presence, glowing brighter when you step closer to Horus' sorrow, dimmer near the violence. Memory has weight, Horus says softly, his voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. A soft wind brushes past you indoors, mind you, and carries the scent of myrrh and something older. Like parchment soaked in time, you reach the center of the temple where a stone pedestal rises from the floor, topped with a gleaming, curved blade. The eye of Horus is etched onto its hilt, not threatening yet, but very much not ornamental. Horus steps beside you. To know the truth of the gods is to hold both justice and pain. He doesn't ask you to pick up the blade, but you do. It's surprisingly light, cold, but not unpleasant. The moment your hand closes around the hilt, the temple fades, replaced by a sky full of burning wings. You're standing in mid-air now, somehow supported by starlight. Around you, a celestial battlefield unfolds, gods clashing, light and shadow tearing across the sky like angry brushstrokes. Scholars still debate whether the mythical war between Horus and Set was a cosmic allegory or a dramatization of historical, dynastic conflict, but to you, standing amid winged shadows and golden feathers. It feels deeply, personally real. Then a shift. The sky collapses into water. The battlefield becomes a river, and you're suddenly falling into it. Blade still in hand, feathers scattered around you like autumn leaves. You land, not with a splash, but with a silence so complete, it's louder than thunder. Now you're in another chamber, deep and dark, the blade gone. Murals pulse faintly on the walls, stories of eyes being plucked and replaced, of gods dying only to rise again, stronger, wiser, angrier. A whisper brushes your ear. He who sees must first be broken, charming. You walk, guided by the faint light of the eye, carved into the floor, every few meters. Each step reveals another piece of Horus myth, a betrayal by Set. The pain of loss, the rage, the restraint. You notice something curious. Among the murals are occasional blank spaces and finished scenes, missing colors, or perhaps deliberately erased parts of the tale, as though even the gods had secrets they didn't dare share. Another voice, Horus again, quieter now, says, "Do not seek to restore what was shattered without asking why it broke." You reach a final wall. Upon it is a depiction of a human, not a god, holding the eye of Horus in one hand and a reed pen in the other. The mural is incomplete. Before you can inspect further, a breeze pushes through the chamber. You follow it to another doorway, this one round and smooth, unlike the others. As you pass through, daylight returns. You're back at the Sphinx, or at least somewhere near it, except now there's sand covering half the horizon, and beyond it, pillars rising like ribs from the earth. A temple waits. You glance down. The blade is in your hand again, but this time, it's different. There's no eye on it anymore. You're standing at the edge of the desert, but the sand doesn't just shift underfoot, it listens. Each grain feels like a tiny eye, tracking your movements as if the desert itself is trying to remember you, or maybe test you. Ahead, the temple waits, tall and narrow, with columns like stretched vertebrae and shadows that twitch in ways shadows shouldn't. The blade in your hand is lighter now, etched not with power, but with truth. A single feather is engraved into the hilt, delicate, precise, and unmistakably matte S. The goddess of balance, of truth, of cosmic order, which, if you're being honest, sounds nice, until you realize that two ancient Egyptians, order included plucking out your heart and weighing it on a scale beside a literal bird feather. So you know. Casual stroll ahead. The wind picks up, not harsh but persistent, as if nudging you forward. As you step into the temple, the heat falls away. Inside, it's cool, not cold, and lit by flickering torches that burn without smoke. Their flames dance like they're aware of your presence. One even leans toward you. Just slightly. That's not alarming at all. You walk through an antechamber lined with murals, Matt seated on her throne, her ostrich feather towering from her crown. The figures in the murals are different from those you've seen so far, more subdued, more measured. No wild battles, no rivers of gold or collapsing skies, just scales. Endless scales. Widely accepted historical fact. Matt was the personification of cosmic order, truth, and morality in Egyptian mythology. And every soul was believed to face her judgment in the afterlife. Unusual fact. In some early texts, Maat isn't a goddess at all, but more of a force, an invisible current running through reality. Enforced by gods but born from something older than even Ra. Your fingers brush the carved surface of a scale depicted on the wall. It hums faintly under your touch. Then, a whisper, "Would yours tip?" You whip around, but no one's there. The room is empty except for the echo of your own heartbeat, which now seems a little louder than you remember. You keep moving. The far end of the chamber, a single hallway stretches forward, narrowing to a slit of light. You pass through slowly, the walls closing in with every step. Then, just when it's too tight to breathe, it opens, into a courtroom. Not the wooden kind. This is cosmic, colossal. You stand on a narrow platform, suspended above an infinite void, the walls made of shifting light. Before you floats an obsidian, scale larger than any creature you've seen, perfectly balanced, unmoving. To the right of it stands a towering figure with wings of lapis and gold. Matt. She does not look at you. She does not need to. Her presence presses against your skin like gravity. Beneath your feet, a slab of stone rises, and from it, a shape forms your heart. Not metaphorically, your actual, glowing, pulsing, emotional little heart, now resting in a stone dish on the scale. Okay. This wasn't in the travel brochure. A second dish appears. Empty dot. Then Matt plucks the feather from her crown and places it gently on the other side. The scales do not move. Not yet. A voice hers, the universe's. Echo's judgment does not ask what you meant, only what you did. Cool, no pressure. Suddenly, images burst into being around EO moments from your life, tiny and glowing. You playing in the dirt. As a child, you lying to your best friend. You skipping an elderly person in line at the grocery store. That one time you returned a wallet. That other time you pretended not to see it. The scale wobbles. Just slightly. Scholars still debate whether this weighing was metabacoa, symbol of living ethically, or, if the ancient Egyptians truly believed the heart would physically betray its secrets in the Hall of Two Truths. You don't get to debate. You just stand there, sweating. The scale wobbles again, and stops. Balanced bay. Single quotes at finally speaks. Not perfect, but not lost. Honestly, that feels like the best Yelp review you've ever received. Then, the scale dissolves. The platform vanishes. You fall not down, but through something. Light, wind, time. You land, gently, in a courtyard filled with reeds. A river glimmers in the distance, and the sun sits low on the horizon, casting the sky in deep saffron and rose. You recognize the place, not from your life, but from myth. This is the field of reeds, Egyptian paradise, where worthy souls farm and feast and nap forever. And yet, you feel the pull to keep moving. You step away from the fields, into a grove of papyrus where the air smells of jasmine and clay. A small boat waits for you at the water's edge. Its oars rest still, but a breeze pushes it gently toward the current. There's no boatman, only a single scroll resting on the bench inside. Tied with a black cord, you step in. As the boat drifts into the river, you untie the scroll. It unrolls on its own, revealing an ancient map inked in symbols you can almost understand. A new destination marked in gold, beneath the crook of the serpent. Oh, that sounds ominous. The boat turns with the current. A temple in the shape of a serpent's coiled body awaits on the horizon. You lean back against the bench. You're still holding the feathered blade. It's warm now. The serpent-shaped temple looms on the horizon, coiled like a guardian in eternal slumber. From a distance, it almost shimmers, as if painted with moonlight, but the sun hasn't even set yet. That's never a good sign. Things that glow before sunset are generally cursed, sacred, or on sale during a solar eclipse. You're hoping for sacred, maybe a touch of cursed. Definitely not discount bin energy. The river carries your boat gently toward the curve of its tail, where a narrow stone dock welcomes you like the tongue of a sleeping beast. You step off, scroll, still in hand, and the boat drifts away silently, like it knows better than to linger here. As you approach the base of the temple, the ground begins to vibrate subtly at first, then more steadily, like a heartbeat. You place your hand on the serpent wall. It's warm, alive. The texture feels less like stone and more like scales worn down by centuries of wind and whispered prayers. You enter through the arch of its jaw. Inside, it's darker than dark. No torches, no flickers, just a blackness so thick you can hear it breathing. Then, The faintest hiss not from the air, but from behind your own thoughts. You're not alone in here. Suddenly, the floor glows beneath your feet. Glowing lines of ancient glyphs spiral out from your steps, illuminating the walls. Each footfall uncovers another section of the temple's living script. You're basically walking on subtitles from the afterlife. Neat, then you see it. Carved into the serpent's spine, stretched across the ceiling in massive golden relief. Apophista, chaos serpent, enemy of Ra, swallower of light. Not a big fan of cosmic balance, brunch, or really anything joyful. Widely accepted historical fact, Apophis, or Apep, was believed to be the embodiment of chaos, rising each night to challenge Ra during his journey through the underworld. Unusual fact, some lesser-known spells in the Book of the Dead claim that Apophis was not destroyed by Ra, but instead bound deep beneath the desert, imprisoned in a temple guarded by silence itself. So, this temple, you're walking through a prison. Lovely as you move deeper, the architecture becomes more fragmented. Columns bend at impossible angles, and inscriptions twist mid-sentence, breaking ancient rules of grammar and logic. Even hieroglyphs are stressed. One eye-shaped symbol seems to be sweating. Then the silence breaks not with sound, but with motion. A shadow slithers across the far wall, too fast, too fluid. You raise your blade, though whether that's brave or just polite reflex, you're unsure. The temperature drops. A door opens ahead, shaped like a vertical slit between two fangs. You step through into a circular chamber lit from above by a beam of light that shouldn't exist underground. In the center lies a pit, and from it, a coil massive, scaled, and twitching. You're here. A whisper rises from the edge of the pit. Not in your ears, but in your bones. Speak your truth, or be devoured by silence. No pressure. Again you step forward. From the pit, the upper body of Apophis rises enormous, black-scaled, with golden eyes that gleam like coins beneath oil. He doesn't roar or strike. He waits, and you realize, this isn't a fight. This is a trial. You reach into your satchel, pulling out the scroll from earlier. You raise it. I seek knowledge, you say, your voice steadier than expected, and the story's forgotten. Apophis blinks slowly, his gaze shifting to the blade at your side. The blade hums. Then you speak of Ra's endless journey, of Mat's feather, of the boat on the river, of the dreams that led you here. Each word you say seems to push the serpent back into the pit, like language itself is holding him at bay. Scholars still debate whether Apophis represented actual divine chaos, or the internal fears of mortal minds facing the unknown. You suspect it's both, because as you speak, you feel your own fears rising, fear of failure, of being forgotten, of speaking and not being heard. But you keep going. Apophis withdraws, slowly, his coils sinking beneath the chamber floor, until only the glow of his eyes remains. Then they blink once, gone. The silence breaks with a low rumble. The chamber shakes. The ceiling splits open to the desert sky, and for the first time since entering, you see the stars. Thousands of them, and one falls. Trailing gold, you climb the stairs that rise from the edge of the pit, now glowing with light. At the top, a small pedestal awaits. On it, a golden scarab. You pick it up. It's warm, beating faintly, like a second heart. The blade in your hand absorbs the glow. Its edge now etched with a new symbol, a spiral. Outside the temple, the sand no longer shifts uneasily. It welcomes your footsteps. You've passed through silence, survived chaos, and emerged with knowledge. But a question lingers. What now? The map, still in your satchel, glows faintly. A new line inked itself while you weren't looking. Follow the eye beneath the city of bones. Naturally, you exhale, brushing sand from your robes, and begin walking west toward the setting sun and the secrets it buries. Because in Egypt, endings are never endings. They are always another beginning. You walk through the desert night, the golden scarab pulsing softly in your palm like a living compass. The stars overhead are so bright, they almost hum silent witnesses to every king, thief, and forgotten god who's ever crossed these sands. The air is cooler now, almost gentle, which might sound lovely if it weren't for the part where you're heading toward something called the City of Bones. Duat, because nothing good has ever come out of a place with bones in the title. Hours pass in the hush of moonlit dunes, and just as your legs begin drafting a resignation letter to your ambition, you crest a final hill and freeze. There it is, the City of Bones. It sprawls beneath you like a fossilized mirage, its ruins arranged in impossible patterns that defy normal geometry. The walls are sunken, bones stacked like bricks, archways made of rib cages, and what looks very much like a ziggurat built entirely from femurs. The architecture here is either a bold artistic choice, or the result of someone really not reading the burial instructions. You descend slowly as you approach the city gates. You notice symbols etched into the skulls embedded in the stone, each one a different name, a different story, long erased from the living world. And above it all, a massive eye carved in black obsidian watches silently, set into the stone like a god's pupil. The eye beneath the city. You found it. But it's not just watching, it's open. You step through the gates, the golden scarab glowing brighter now, casting thin beams through the skeleton streets. There's no wind, no sound, no movement. It's as if the city itself is holding its breath, waiting for you to make a mistake. And then you hear it, drums soft at first, like distant thunder, then louder, rhythmic, pulsing, bone on bone. You turn a corner and nearly collide with a procession of ghostly figures. Each one is dressed in the regalia of ancient priests' leopard skins, ivory masks, staffs crowned with falcons and ankhs. Their eyes are hollow, their steps deliberate, and at the center of them all, Thoth, the ibis-headed god of writing, wisdom, and magic. But tonight, he wears the face of a judge. Widely accepted historical fact, Thoth was considered the divine scribe, credited with inventing hieroglyphics and maintaining the balance between order and chaos through sacred knowledge. Unusual fact. Some rare spells describe Thoth not just as a neutral recorder, but as a manipulator of fate, one who could alter destinies through the clever redrafting of divine law. You're escorted into the ziggurat of femurs, still weird, and brought before a chamber lined in black stone, etched with glowing blue glyphs that shift when you look too long at the center. A massive scroll floating in midair, ink forming and unforming on its surface. You know immediately, it's the record, everything ever written, said, or thought. And Thoth speaks not aloud, but directly into your mind. You seek the hidden truths, yet carry truths still hidden within. That's a pretty judgmental way of saying you've got secrets. But sure. He extends a hand, and suddenly, you're not in the chamber anymore. You're standing in a library, carved from moonlight, scrolls floating like fireflies, shelves spiraling into infinity. Thoth walks beside you. Knowledge is power, he says, but also weight. What you learn, you carry, and what you choose to remember, chooses you. He stops in front of a scroll, bound in gold thread. It opens inside your story, from the beginning, memories you forgot, dreams you never understood, a moment from childhood you thought meaningless, but apparently triggered the interest of a falcon-headed recruiter. Classic. Scholars still debate whether Thoth's library exists as a real place, or merely within the minds of those deemed worthy enough to glimpse its contents. You reach out to touch your scroll, but Thoth stops you. Not yet, he says. There is one more truth to face. You blink and suddenly, you're alone again in the chamber. The record scroll before you has changed. It shows the face of a man, yours, but older, wiser, different. This is your possible self, the one who finishes the journey, survives the traps, solves the riddles, and uncovers the final secret, buried in the sands. and you realize it's not prophecy, it's potential. The drums fade. Thoth steps back. You may choose to remember or to forget. You choose to remember, because forgetting won't make it untrue. The scroll burns away in a flash of blue flame, and in its place, a feather, white, perfect, the feather of Matt. You take it, tuck it into your satchel, and turn toward the exit. The priests dissolve into ash as you pass. Outside, dawn creeps across the sand. You survived the eye. You survived your truth, and the scarab pulses again once, hard. The map ink appears mid-air now, unrolling before you in gold script. Seek the vault of Osiris beneath the split pyramid, because of course there's a split pyramid. You sigh and smile. After all, this is what you signed up for. Dust gods, identity crises, and occasionally a good feather. You tighten your grip on your blade and step into the rising sun, the city of bones disappearing behind you like a dream you barely remember, but will never forget. You don't need a compass to find the split pyramid. It finds you. From the moment you leave the city of bones, the horizon itself seems to tilt. The dunes rise at odd angles. The sun arcs strangely in the sky, as if bending to avoid something. Time wobbles. Your shadow flickers, then doubles for a moment, before snapping back to normal. Or whatever passes for normal when you're chasing a feather given to you by an ibis-headed god. Eventually, the sands part, and there it is, the split pyramid. Imagine a typical pyramid, majestic and triangular. Then imagine someone took a divine chisel and cleaved it perfectly down the middle, splitting it like a cosmic fruit. Two massive halves lean away from each other at a precarious angle, leaving a jagged chasm between them that disappears into blackness. No one builds something like this by accident. You stand at the base, staring up at the cracked monument. Sand trickles constantly from the fissure, like the pyramid is bleeding time. You touch the stone, it's cold, older than anything you've touched so far, even in this land of timeless things. The scarab in your pouch flutters again, guiding you, not toward the top, but into the split itself. Well, of course. You descend carefully. The stone steps narrow and crumbling beneath your feet. The air grows colder, heavier. You pass through murals that shift in the flickering torchlight scenes of gods being born from stars. Osiris embracing the Nile, a falcon flying backward through time. Eventually, the tunnel widens into a great underground chamber. You stop. Before you lies a stone vault, sealed with 7 locks. In front of it, a bowed dot. Yes, a bowed dot suspended in midair, hanging above a deep pool of starlight, not water, but something that pulses and reflects not just your face, but other versions of you. Laughing, crying, victorious, broken. You step into the boat. It lowers slowly, touching the shimmering pool, which ripples in impossible colors. A voice echoes, not spoken, but felt. Osiris awaits. Widely accepted historical fact. Osiris, god of the dead, was believed to rule the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, where souls were judged and either granted eternal life or obliterated. Unusual fact. Some temple carvings depict Osiris not as a static ruler, but as a cyclical being, one who was constantly dying and being reborn, acting as a living metaphor for Egypt's floods and harvests. As your boat drifts forward, the stars below begin to whisper. You lean over the edge. Each ripple tells a story. A pharaoh begging for forgiveness, a priest hiding sacred scrolls, a farmer planting seeds in a cursed field. Their voices blend into a low hum, centuries of longing, and then the vault opens, not with noise, with stillness. The boat halts, and you step into a chamber so dark, it swallows the idea of light. You hold the scarab aloft, and it glows, illuminating the figure ahead. Osiris, wrapped in linen, his skin green with the echo of rebirth. The crook and flail crossed on his chest, eyes closed. He is not dead, he is dreaming. The air hums with restrained power. You step closer, careful not to disturb whatever sacred REM cycle he's currently enjoying. The voice returns clearer now. To know the secret of the sands, you must pass the trial of renewal. You blink, and suddenly you're back on the boat, but alone, in a different version of the world. The sky is orange, the Nile black as ink, and papyrus fields burn in the distance. You hear a scream, not yours, not human. A crocodile made of glass and fire rises from the river. You stand. No blade, only the feather of Mat in your hand. The beast lunges. You don't flinch. You hold the feather out tanned as it touches the crocodile's snout. The flames extinguish, and the creature shatters into lotus petals. You wake in the vault. Osiris is standing now, eyes open, watching you with calm that could drown planets. He nods. You are becoming. Not you have become. Not yet. He raises one hand, and from the darkness, a key floats to you shaped like an ankh, carved from obsidian and bone. You take it. The scarab dims. The map in your mind unfurls again, a new line etching itself in gold. Across your memory, the temple beyond time holds the final question. Oh, that's what we were missing. Time paradoxes. You turn to Osiris, ready to speak, but he's already fading. Wrapped again in linen and mystery, your boat returns, carrying you upward. Back through the crack in the pyramid, back to a dawn that looks suspiciously older than the one you left behind. Scholars still debate whether Osiris ruled time, death, or merely the ideas that bind them together. You're starting to think it doesn't matter, because everything is connected now. The scrolls, the feather, the vaults, the serpent, the scarab, the boat, the stories, and in the center of it all, you. A tiny voice whispers in the wind, not chosen by gods, chosen by story. You smile, same thing, really. You return to the sands with Osiris key in your grip, its weight somehow heavier than before, as if it carries more than just destiny now. Maybe it holds memory, maybe it holds you. The sun is rising, or is it setting? The horizon can't seem to decide, which is deeply unsettling but also, at this point, kind of on brand for your journey. You're starting to accept that time in Egypt doesn't flow. It meanders, like the Nile, or like a cat deciding whether to knock your favorite artifact off a shelf. You follow the scarab's tug again, its light pulsing steadily as it guides you across windswept dunes and crumbled stone markers, carved with hieroglyphs. The world feels quieter now, less hostile. Like Egypt is watching you with narrowed eyes, but not with suspicion anymore, maybe with curiosity. Eventually, you reach a circular plateau, etched with strange spirals, and at its center, a doorway. No walls, no roof, just a freestanding stone portal, adorned with faded carvings, and one unmistakable sigil at its peak. The Eye of Ra. You hesitate, then step through. The world bends, and everything changes. You're inside, but not. The temple beyond time isn't a place, it's a when. The walls shimmer between sandstone and starlight. Columns flicker, now made of stone, now of vines, now of vines, now of translucent glass that reflects constellations you don't recognize. Footsteps echo ahead of you, but they aren't yours. Yet, welcome to the paradox. The temple pulses with impossible architecture, stairs that ascend sideways, doors that lead back into themselves, windows that look into memories you haven't lived yet. At the center of it all stands a tall woman cloaked in white linen and silver threads. She turns, and her face is half star, half skull. This is Seshat, goddess of wisdom, record-keeping, and cosmic architecture. Widely accepted historical fact. Seshat was the female counterpart to Thoth, often depicted recording the deeds of kings and inscribing the design of temples onto sacred palm leaves. Unusual fact. In some marginal texts, Seshat isn't just a scribe, she's described as an architect of time itself, carving destiny into the walls of the universe with her reed pen. She regards you with an expression that is equal parts math tutor and time oracle. You're late, she says, with a small smirk. You open your mouth, close it again, and decide not to ask what late means in a place where chronology seems optional. Instead, you offer her the obsidian ankh. She doesn't take it. She waves her hand, and the key unravels into a spiral of glowing glyphs that orbit her like lazy comets. You've collected the symbols, she says, voice as soft as distant thunder. Now comes the difficult part. Translation. A glowing tablet rises from the temple floor. Blank. You must inscribe your truth, Seshat explains, or what's left of it. This feels bigger than the whole boat ride to Osiris. Thing? You take the stylus, she offers. It looks like a shard of moonlight. And begin. You write your name. It vanishes. You write your purpose. Also vanishes. Seshat raises one eyebrow. Try again. But this time, tell the story that hasn't been written. So you do. You close your eyes and think back past the crocodile-faced priest, past the eye-besetted god, past the tombs and feathers and serpents. You remember the sound of wind over broken stone, the shimmer of gold beneath dust, the scent of myrrh and sweat, the feel of awe and sand, and terror in your lungs. You write not what you are, but how you are. The stylus glows, and so does the tablet. Glyphs bloom across its surface like fireflies, and suddenly, you understand. You haven't been gathering pieces of a map. You've been writing one dot with every choice, every encounter, every impossible moment. You are the author of this myth, now not just the reader. Seshat nods, satisfied. Good, she says. Now remember, the story ends only when you stop telling it. She claps once, and the temple begins to dissolve. Not collapse dissolve, like sugar in tea, like time in eternity. You find yourself standing outside the portal again, tablet in hand. The glyphs still glow faintly. You've written your place in the myth. Scholars still debate whether ancient Egyptian temples were designed to reflect the cosmos or contain it. You're leaning toward contain. Frankly, as you tuck the tablet into your satchel, the scarab flutters one last time, then crumbles into sand. Its work is done. Yours. Not quite. A new horizon shimmers ahead, and this one feels final. Like the edge of a very old book, or maybe the first page of a new one. You step forward. The sand crunches differently under your feet, now softer, almost reverent, like you're walking across the cover of something sacred. The air is warm, but not oppressive, and the sky above stretches wider than any sky should. You've left behind the temple, beyond time, but its echoes follow you, etched into your memory, like the glyphs still glowing on the stone. Tablet tucked at your side. Ahead lies a canyon, cut through the desert, like a scar, jagged, ancient, and humming with power. You step into its shadow, the temperature dropping immediately, as if the sun itself doesn't dare intrude. This is the Valley of Voices. You don't know how you know the name, but you do. And as you walk deeper, the name becomes fact. The walls around you are not silent. They whisper faint voices, murmuring from within the stone itself. Some speak in prayers, others in curses, a few just laugh. Lined along the walls are statues. No, not statues, shells. They were people once, each figure frozen mid-expression. Awe, rage, horror, peace. Their eyes glint like obsidian, as if a part of them still sees. This is the resting place of forgotten gods. You pause beside one figure tall, proud lion, dash-headed, Sekhmet. Widely accepted historical fact, Sekhmet, daughter of Ra, was a goddess of war and healing, known for her fiery temper and terrifying power in battle. Unusual fact. Some ancient hymns depict her as a goddess whose wrath was so uncontrollable. Even Ra had to trick her with dyed beer to calm her destruction, highlighting a strange duality of bloodlust and benevolence. Her stone eyes seem to follow you as you pass, then dash movement, a gust of wind maybe, or maybe breath. You turn, and he's there, Thoth. Again, only this time, he's not alone. Flanking him are two beings cloaked in black and gold. Their faces are hidden, their hands tucked into long sleeves. Silent, watchful, not quite human. Witnesses, Thoth says simply, his ibis head tilting as if to study you from multiple angles at once. He gestures toward a narrow path veering off from the canyon's floor leading down into shadow. You've walked through time, he says, but now you must walk through memory. Of course, because a canyon full of whispering statues wasn't enough fun for one evening. Still, you follow. The path spirals down, and soon, the stone changes become smoother, darker, almost wet. Glyphs shimmer faintly along the walls, but not the kind you've seen before. These are personal. You see a name from your childhood carved into the wall, a date, a heartbreak, a scar, your memories. This place is your memory, made manifest, and it's being read. The witnesses glide beside you silently, but you can feel their attention. Each step you take is a confession. Each memory unearthed and judged. Thoth walks ahead casually, like a museum guide at a particularly disturbing exhibit. Memory is not a record, he says, it is a rewrite. Every time you recall, you reshape. You pass another set of glyphs, this time not yours, not human at all. You glimpse a great crocodile devouring stars, a lotus blooming in reverse, a cat-faced woman dancing on the edge of a blade. God's memories. Even we forget, Thoth says. Even we distort. You arrive at a pool dark, perfectly still, nestled at the very end of the path. The memory basin, he explains. Drink, and you will remember what you never knew, right? No pressure. You kneel and cup the water. In your hands. It's warm. Familiar. You drink. Everything changes. You see a vast library beneath the Nile. Its scrolls wrapped in reeds. A scribe with a jackal's grin recording names that have never been spoken aloud. The stars above the pyramids pulsing in Morse-like flashes, warnings, or invitations. You see the moment you first stepped into the desert, the scarab, the ankh, the laughter, the fear, but now you see behind those moments, the patterns, the choice. You see yourself, walking forward through time and backward through myth, unraveling and reweaving the threads, and then, stillness. You open your eyes. You are alone. No. Thoth. No witnesses. Just the basin. And your reflection. It's the same. But not. There's gold in your eyes now. Not metaphorically. Literally. Small flecks of gold swirl in your irises like tiny constellations. You rise. The path behind you is gone. But a new one opens. Arched and framed in flame that doesn't burn. You step through it. Not because you're ready, but because readiness is no longer the point. Scholars still debate whether Egyptian concepts of memory were linear like modern thought or cyclical, something you return to again and again until understood. You think you've found your answer. Memory doesn't end. It evolves. The gold in your eyes pulses once, and the world blinks with you. The world reforms around you with a suddenness that's neither jarring nor gentle. More like waking up mid-dream and simply accepting where you are. The sky is endless and strange, a dark violet dome pinpricked with stars that shimmer like sequins on velvet. The air smells of cinnamon and ash, and beneath your feet lies polished obsidian, warm to the touch and etched with swirling constellations that rearrange themselves when you aren't looking. Welcome to Duat, the Egyptian underworld, but it's not the hellish wasteland you might have pictured from dusty history books, or that one video game with a wildly inaccurate Anubis. Instead, Duat is beautiful, hypnotic, terrifying in the way a perfect silence is terrifying. You walk alone at first, the obsidian road unfurls ahead like a ribbon of night, but soon, you notice flickers of movements, spirits, memories given form. They drift across the path and vanish again, each one trailing light or smoke or song. Then, the silence breaks, a ripple of laughter, deep, melodic. and unsettling echoes around you. From the shadows steps a colossal, form leonine and reptilian, its body thick with muscle, its maw impossibly wide. Say hello to Ammit. Widely accepted historical fact. Ammit is the devourer of the dead in Egyptian mythology, a hybrid creature with the head of a crocodile, the forequarters of a lion, and the hind legs of a hippopotamus. She feasts on the hearts of those deemed unworthy in the afterlife. Unusual fact. Some alternative interpretations paint her not as a mindless monster, but as a divine necessity, a cosmic filter that ensures only truth survives, a karmic recycling system, if you will. And right now, she's sniffing in your direction. Great, you stand very still, which, let's be honest, is all you really can do when faced with a soul-leading judgment beast. But she doesn't lunge, she speaks. Her voice is not thunder. It's a whisper layered with thousands of others, men, women, children, pharaohs, priests. You are not dead, she says. Yet you carry death within you. Charming. Before you can ask for clarification, or possibly flee, another figure appears from the mist. Anubis, jackal-headed and tall. He exudes calm authority, his eyes glowing with blue fire that's somehow more comforting than alarming. He raises a hand, and Ammit recedes into the shadows with a low growl that sounds like judgment postponed. Come, he says. You follow. Because saying no to the literal god of embalming seems like a terrible idea. He leads you to a chamber made entirely of sand, floating, shifting sand that holds shape as if obeying some ancient memory. In its center is a single golden scale, balanced perfectly despite the breeze. The scale of Mat. Anubis gestures toward a small stone bowl filled with dark feathers, each one black as night, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. You realize they're not feathers at all. They're regrets. Your regrets. Each time you reach into the bowl, your hand trembles not from fear, but from recognition. Each feather carries a moment, a choice, a silence. You place the first on the scale. It doesn't tip. The second still level. The third, it shifts. Anubis watches without judgment. You must weigh your own heart, he says. Only you know its weight. Scholars still debate whether the weighing of the heart was literal, symbolic, or a ritual dramatization for the benefit of both the living and the dead. But standing here, with your regrets flickering in your hand, it doesn't feel like performance. It feels like truth. One by one, you place each memory on the scale. Some lighten it, some burden it. You reach the final feather. That this one is different. White, weightless, warm. It isn't regret, it's something else. Forgiveness. You place it on the scale, and it balances. The scale flashes gold, and the sand around you explodes upward, forming walls, columns, stars. You're no longer in Duat. You're in the Hall of Eternity. This is where the gods store stories that are too sacred to be told. Not censored, just preserved. In cases of fire and gold and starlight. You see scrolls that burn without ash. Tablets that float mid-air, each rune pulsing like a heartbeat. Anubis turns to you. You are not a judge, he says. You are a scribe. He places a stylus in your hand, its tip glowing faintly. Not to decide, only to remember. And then, he vanishes because, apparently that's just what gods do. You stand alone, surrounded by forgotten truths and forbidden tales. Your task isn't over, it's only now begun. The Hall of Eternity hums softly around you, a sanctuary suspended beyond time, where the dust of ages never settles, and stories breathe like living flames. You trace your fingers along the glowing scrolls, feeling the hum of countless destinies, woven into their radiant threads. And you realize this place is less a library, and more a heartbeat, the pulse of everything that was, is, and might yet be. Outside, the twilight deepens into a canvas of stars so vivid they seem almost within reach. Each one a shard of a myth waiting to be reclaimed from oblivion. You take a breath and begin to write, not with ink or quill, but with the glow of your own awareness, inscribing the untold sagas of gods and mortals onto the ether itself. Each stroke reverberates with power, shaping not only the past, but casting shadows and light into the infinite possibilities of the future. You remember the laughter of the Nile, the whispers of sand in the desert wind, the fierce gaze of Ammit, and the solemn watch of Anubis. You feel the weight and the gift of memory intertwine. The act of storytelling becomes a sacred ritual, a weaving of truth and mystery, where the boundary between history and legend blurs like twilight into night. Scholars still debate whether the divine stories are fixed destinies or living narratives, shaped by the choices of those who remember them. But here, in this timeless hall, you understand that every tale is both a dance between fate and free will, preservation and transformation. As you finish the last line, the hall begins to dissolve, stars folding back into the cosmos, scrolls fading like morning mist, leaving you standing once again on the edge of the desert plain where the wind hums its eternal song. You feel the quiet hum of the god's breath around you, a gentle reminder that the stories never truly end. They only wait for the next voice to awaken them. You smile, the stylus still warm in your hand, ready for whatever story comes next. Now, as your journey through the timeless echoes of Egyptian myths comes to a gentle close, let your body soften and your mind slow, like the warm sand settling beneath a twilight sky. Feel the comforting hush of the desert night wrapping around you, a blanket woven from stars and whispered secrets, inviting you to rest in its embrace. Each breath you take becomes a quiet wave, lapping softly at the shores of your awareness, easing away the day's weight and the lingering thoughts of gods and mortals. Let the memories of ancient temples, flowing rivers, and sacred scrolls drift, like sand grains through your fingertips, light, delicate, yet infinite in their stories. The voices of Ra, Isis, Osiris, and Anubis fade into a soothing murmur, as if sharing a lullaby meant only for you. Imagine the gentle flicker of candlelight dancing on hieroglyphs, the soft rustle of papyrus, and the cool night breeze carrying the scent of frankincense and myrrh. There is no rush, no urgency, only the peaceful certainty that these stories will remain waiting patiently for you to return whenever you choose. Your eyelids grow heavier, and your breathing deepens, syncing with the eternal rhythm of the cosmos. Allow yourself to drift slowly toward sleep, carried by the timeless river of myth and memory, where dreams become the new storytellers. And as you rest, know that the legends of the Egyptian gods buried deep in sands and starlight will continue to whisper their secrets softly in the quiet moments between waking and dreaming.